some years ago, in fact it was 8 years ago, I became aware of the fact that we are in trouble. We are in big trouble. I decided to go for a master's degree in social work, so I went to a college in Ohio, in our area. And I had an experience there that convinced me that our whole country was going to face a challenge, a very great challenge. A challenge it had never encountered before. Something very, very different. And it would be even difficult to understand. We were given an assignment in a class and we had to give presentations, and so they were supposed to be about 15 minutes long, I think. And we selected the topic, and you would present that and have videos or whatever else you wanted to present with it. Well, my time came, and I got up to give my presentation. And so I did. And about 3 or 4 minutes into that, I referred to the work of two scientists, well-known scientists, very known for their accomplishments. I thought, well, I would refer to these as something, that would bolster my data and make it look better and all of that. It would be more convincing. As I went on, at one point in the presentation, I began to be aware that some frowns were forming on some people's faces. It was right at the time when I was mentioning those two scientists and what they had done. And there were more frowns. Now I know today that it wasn't the particular two scientists I presented that was a problem. It wasn't what they were saying that was a problem. It's not even important to say who they were now, or even what they said, to make the point of today's sermon. So afterwards, I got my B grade, which was fine. But I had seen that everyone else had gotten an A. I mean, everyone else. So I was questioning. I thought, why was I the one that got the B? And it was a good grade, but there was something different about it. Clearly, there was something wrong with my talk. So I went to the professor's office and to discuss the grade I'd been given and to see how I could improve, to see what I had to say that could be bettered. So we talked about it, and after a few minutes, the professor sighed and said, David, everything was fine until you started referring to those two scientists. You shouldn't have done that. Now I was a bit surprised. I wasn't sure why. But that was the part, I thought that was one of the better parts. It turns out it wasn't. I said, was there something wrong with what the scientist said? No, that wasn't it, he replied. I was at a loss. I was confused. I couldn't figure this out. I was trying to parse some kind of sense into this. Then he said, you shouldn't have brought scientists into your work at all. You shouldn't have brought scientists into your work at all. I was stunned. I was beyond stunned. I wasn't sure what he was saying. Nothing wrong with the scientists. Nothing wrong with what they said. You just shouldn't have brought scientists into the discussion. I said, you mean those particular scientists? Because I can get different people. He said, no, that wasn't it. And then he made his point very clear. You shouldn't have brought science into it at all. The problem wasn't scientists. scientists were saying. The problem was that I brought science into the discussion. Let that sink in. So what was the problem? I puzzled over it for months. And I began to read the literature in the class, and it became clearer and clearer to me what the problem was. The problem was that I had referred first to objective truth. The second problem was I had referred to reason. Those are the problems. First, that I had mentioned something about objective truth, and second, reason. Let's go back to the conversation. Now, I had figured out by this time, while we were talking, where the professor was going and what he wanted me to say. I said, I know what it is you want me to say. You want me to say that what these scientists have to say may be true for them, but not necessarily true for others. True for them, true for you, maybe not true for me. And the professor nodded enthusiastically, having broken through to me finally. And I said to him, no, Professor, of course, no. Now he was stunned. So I gave him an example. Suppose, Professor, you and I are out on the corner, and there's some traffic. Cars are coming by. Suddenly you decide to step out into the street, but I see a car coming. And I say, Professor, a car is coming. Please get back out of the street. And I asked him, are you really going to turn and say to me, that may be true for you, but it's not true for me? He suddenly got the point, instantly got the point. There is a public world out there. There are objects out there that we describe. We don't have any problem speaking about them because they're there. Now, I got my master's degree in social work, and so now I have 3 master's degrees. And then I went on to get a doctorate in ministry. And with that doctorate in ministry and $2.50, I can buy a very cheap cup of coffee. But I didn't learn it alone. When I was in engineering school, I minored in philosophy. And the professor is a great and wonderful person. I like him. I like him a lot. But he had made the kind of mistake that a young man or a young woman would make in their philosophy course as a freshman. Things are not true for you and true for me, or just true for me, not for you. True for someone else over here, but not for someone else over here. My name is David Sanders. It's as true for you as it is of me, for me. My name is David Sanders. It's true for you. You know what name to call me. You call me Pastor. That's true. Pastor Dave. That's true for you as it is true for me. But it's not true of you. Your name isn't David Sanders, is it, Terry? He's thinking about it. He chuckled. I think he got it. My name is not Young because I'm somebody else. trouble. When we cannot speak truth unequivocally, even if it has to be very, very nuanced, when we can't do that anymore, when we can't speak language in such a way as to connect with someone, we do it all the time, by the way, we wouldn't be able to get up in the morning if we had no truth. We wouldn't know how to ask for breakfast. The moms wouldn't know how to tell their kids to make their bed. Nothing would work. The entire world would fall apart. And yet, it became clearer to me as I went further along in study that nobody in the social work department understood it that way, and nor had they ever thought about it. Now, in our Old Testament text for today, we are told that Solomon prayed that God would give him something. A gift fit for a king. What did he pray for? Did he pray for gold? Long life? No. He didn't pray for these things. He prayed for something entirely different. He prayed for wisdom. He prayed for wisdom so that he could guide his people. Therefore, the Bible tells us, therefore, that's the reason God granted Solomon his wish. Wisdom is both the most valuable thing we can obtain and also at the same time the most undervalued of gifts of human beings. Perhaps you'll remember Dr. Brett Weinstein. Talked about him last week at Evergreen State College. I hope some of you are checking out everything I say. Do some fact checking. Go and look at the website, find out what's there. See for yourself. Very important. Research. Don't trust experts. Not today, especially. He was that professor of biology at Evergreen State College. You remember what happened to him. He was impossibly, unimaginably accused of racism. Now, he had a very good student. He had a brilliant student. The best student he said he'd ever had in graduate school. The absolute brightest person he'd ever had. And he spent years as a professor of biology. She was a black student. Her name was Odette. One day the students burst into the room. Not the students taking the class, but protesters broke into Dr. Weinstein's class. Began to berate him, but they also began to berate Odette. Now, they didn't call her a racist. That would be laughable. She was black, after all. So what was the problem that they had with her? Why were they bothering her and harassing her? What for? Because one would think she was a student of Dr. Weinstein, this terrible racist. But that was not it. That wasn't the reason. What was then the reason? Why? Why were they even going to lengths of bullying her physically and calling her a traitor of her race when the real problem wasn't race or anything like it? Why? It was because she was studying, and let this sink in, it was because she was studying science. It was because she was studying science. And people of color are not not supposed to study science. Imagine what would happen if all the people of color that are now scientists or doctors of medicine performing surgery at this hour as we stand here. Doctors with black skin are performing surgery. A doctor with black skin operated on my wife. What would have happened if he suddenly disappeared? What's wrong then with science? Two things. It claims there is objective truth, and second, it proclaims that reason is valid. Those are the tenets of what I've called 1,000 times postmodernism. We are in trouble. We are in big trouble. There were riots at Evergreen that did call, in part, for the shutting down of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Shut it down. Not too long ago, 5,000 scientists signed a letter. They would shut down all science and research for a single day. You can argue about, maybe we should have an argument about that. Maybe we should have a debate. Remember that word, debate? But we don't debate. We just shut things down. We are in trouble. I keep saying it until we're out of trouble. That may be a long time. Back in 2017, when the riots began at Evergreen State College, people told Dr. Weinstein, you're just way over the top on this. This is not going anywhere. It's not a problem. It's just young people in college. It's not going to go anywhere. Once they grow up, it'll be all over. And now they're calling and saying to him, you were right. What can we do? And now those students are in the streets. They don't dislike you because you're a Democrat or a Republican or anything else. They don't want you to think in objective truth terms or in reason. What they need is power. Because for years, that's all they've been taught and told. Power is all that matters. Truth doesn't matter. Truth is just what the powerful say it is. And when they get that power, what will they do with it? What will they do with it? I shudder to think. For then a shade and a great darkness will fall over this land. No police, no fire workers, no doctors, no scientists, no more Odettes. The people of God must exercise great wisdom, like Solomon. And we must exercise great wisdom in all our political actions. Some pastors actually tell their parishioners how to vote. So I will too. And this is what you do. Get down upon your knees. And like King Solomon,